Welcome to day two of the ninth annual Justice on Trial Film Festival. As you know, the Justice on Trial Film Festival was established to showcase films that speak to the challenges of people caught up in the judicial system and the power of community solutions. The films we have slated for you today do just that, as they are united by the theme of healing and working towards collective action and agency. Before I continue, I would like to thank our generous donors and partner organizations for their support. Donors and partner organizations include Loyola
Hello,
Marymount,
everyone.
as well as, oops,
We will be watching.
so sorry about that.
Thank you.
Many of you have already donated and many of you have already supported us. And like I said, the donors and partner organizations, including Loyola Marymount University, the formerly incarcerated and convicted people and families movement, FICPFM, Art for Justice Fund, a sponsored project of Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors, Alliance for Safety Justice, Californians for Safety and Justice, Dr. Bill Resnick, Michael J. Stubbs, and Essence of Light. I would also like to thank those of you at home watching live. Many of you have already donated through our Eventbrite page, and those of you who still wish to donate can do so by texting Freedom Work to 44321. Again, that is texting as one word, Freedom Work, to the number 44321. After you send that text, you'll receive a secure link to our Give Lively page where you can donate the amount that makes sense to you. Above all, we appreciate your support and faith in our mission. Tonight's schedules consist of three important films: Step Inside the Circle, An Honor Yard by Fritzie Horseman, and We Came to Heal by Hala's Youth Organizing Collective and Fallon Jones. After the film has played at approximately 4:50 p.m. Pacific time, we will begin our panel conversation with Thomas A. Rock Porter and Fallon Jones of We Came to Heal, moderated by Dr. Deanna Cook, Director of Bellarmine College of Liberal Arts Engaged Learning at Loyola Marymount University. We hope you will join us for that conversation, as you will have the opportunity to participate live via the chat window on this page. So we'll be starting the film shortly. Please be sure to scroll down to the website, click on the Films tab, as the films will start momentarily. After the films have all finished, please remember to click back on the Opening Remarks panel tab to participate in the conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Well, I hope everyone enjoyed those three wonderful films, Step Inside the Circle, The Honor Yard, both from the Compassion Project, and We Came to Heal, which was our feature today. I'm Deanna Cook. I partnered with A New Way of Life from Loyola Marymount University, and I'm really excited to be a part of this panel, moderating and asking questions to two phenomenal folks who we have here today. Please take some time and think about what your questions are, because I'm going to ask some questions. However, I'll be looking to you to also join in this conversation. This is meant to be a conversation and not just an interview format from us. So let me introduce you to your speakers today. We have Thomas A. Rox Porter. He's the co-founder, and you saw him in the film, co-founder and leading healer, healing justice organizer for HALA. Um, how our lives link together. AROX is a consultant, a senior mentor, a credible messenger for the Arches and Next Steps program located on the west side of Harlem. In the Arches program, he works closely with the Department of Probation to support and assist young people who are entangled in the criminal justice system. He's an activist at heart. AROX is sincerely passionate about making systemic changes, and so I'm super happy to have you here. We also have Phelan Jones, who is a filmmaker of Irish and English descent. He's born in London and now living in Colombia. And his work is primarily focused on social justice, education systems, systems change, and movement building. And he was a filmmaker for this wonderful film that we just saw. So I'm going to get started with us, but again, please make sure that our audience is asking questions, put them in the chat, and we'll be happy to ask them to our panelists. So I'm going to start by opening up with a question to Phelan. And I wanted to just find out how you heard about and found out about HALA and what made you want to do a film and work with them to create this film.
Hey, and thanks so much for having me on. Yeah, it was kind of random, really. So Corey, who you would have seen in the film, he happens to meet a friend of mine. I think they were on some sort of leadership retreat or something, and they just had a couple of hours together and really connected. And somehow in that conversation, Wisdom showed him a video which I made about my friend's name's Wisdom Muzu. Shout out to him, because without him this wouldn't be happening. And he, yeah, they're both of them just connected. And previously I'd filmed something with Wisdom because he's a really amazing social justice educator who's just started a school in Denver. But then they just connected, and then Wisdom sent me a text straight afterwards and was like, look, I just met this guy. He's told me about what him and his organization are doing, and you just need to like check them out. And so whenever Wisdom sends me something like that, it's like, I know I need to, like, I'm in. So then I reached out to Corey initially, and then I just happened to be in New York, and we met up. And at first we were just like connecting, building relationships, sort of trying to set some trust. Start to get to know each other a little bit, see if there's an opportunity to work together, and then yeah, we just took it from there, really. I feel like the motivation for me was, well, there was a couple of layers to it. I think like one was like the focus of my work, which was a lot to do with social justice and education. Was sort of bringing up a lot of questions around this idea of healing and the role of trauma, historical trauma, in this as part of this sort of systemic inequity and systemic oppression and injustice that I was trying to seek to understand and share about through my films. And so I think that was one layer of it. And then I think we were just talking yesterday, actually, me, AROX, Corey and Alex, we were just chatting, and it occurred to me after making the film and through the film that on some subconscious level as well, I think I was drawn to what they were doing because of my own personal story, some of the stuff that I went through in my life. and some healing that I needed to do. And I think on some kind of, a lot of that was I was in denial about before I met these guys. And I think that at some level, like I just sensed that like these are people that I can learn from and I want to get to know and build with. So yeah, I think those were sort of like the two main motivations.
Great. We're getting a number of questions in. I'm going to ask one more question of you, Phelan, and then I'm going to move to some of the questions from the audience. So the film was created over 3 years. And part of the credits that I saw, thank you for building those relationships. Can you talk about whether that's normal for the way in which you do filmmaking, or was it whether that was unique, and sort of how that got started and how you went about doing that?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways it was like unique, and in some aspects sort of normal. I think like, I guess if there's any filmmakers watching this, like you'll know, especially documentaries, you know that like having trust and a genuine, honest connection with the people that you're working with is really important. That especially because there's I mean, as a filmmaker, there's a lot of power that you have, like, and there's a lot of responsibility there as well to honor the stories that are being shared. In a way that's authentic, in a way that represents what people are trying to say. So yeah, I think that's part of it. Is I think I guess that's always something that's like deeply in how I'm thinking about work is that aspect in terms of my role as a filmmaker, and then also thinking about my identity as a white man with a lot of unearned privilege and power, and there's a dynamic, there's a history, there's so much there as well that you have to think about what kind of relationship can we build given that context, and given the history that I bring, the experience I bring, and the experience, histories, identities that others are bringing to the relationship as well. And I think like what was really positive about working with Holler was that they had, I think A-Rox would say as well, like they had a really healthy skepticism about me when I first showed up. It's like, who is this guy? What's his agenda? What's he about? Which I think is really good, because I know that like it happens. Like people do, like there's a lot of exploitation of stories that happens, and a lot of genders that people might bring to something like this that I think it's really important to be honest about and to talk about. And I think also just the way that Holler shows up, they wanna be real. So it definitely, I definitely felt when I arrived, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to earn some trust here, and I'm just gonna be as honest as I can about why I'm here, what I'm doing, and let's see how we can move forward. But one aspect was definitely unique was like, we had some like really honest conversations to begin with about like who owns this film, right? And it was really important for all of us that Holler has like complete ownership over what this is, and like nothing's gonna go out there until like everyone's happy and on board with what's happening. And that meant that like throughout the film, like there was a lot of communication. Holler effectively were producing the film. And we were a lot of back and forth, like some hard moments where I was just like, oh no, I'm gonna have to like push even harder on something, because initially we thought we were gonna do a 15-minute film, and then it turned into what it was, because we were just like, there's no way we can do what we need to do in 15 minutes. But all that, like through all of that, like it was just, I think it was a really healthy creative relationship that we had. And a lot of that needed that foundation of just sort of being real with each other and building some relationship and trust at the beginning.
That's great. So thank you for that. And it leads me to my first question for A-Rox, which is thinking about y'all had to build trust, you all had to get to know each other. How did you even start Holler? How did you all build this fantastic work that you're doing. How long did it take for you all to build that trust? Was it an easy decision to work together? Can you tell us how this all got started?
Yes. How y'all doing? Peace, man. Thank y'all for definitely inviting us. Thank y'all for showing our video. Thank y'all for this festival. This is beautiful and an honor. So I just want to start off like that. I also want to bring our ancestors in the building and all that, you know, all the great people that came before us that's been leading grassroots organizations that died doing this work. I want to bring my grandmom and grandpops and my uncles that's not here no more. I want to bring my family. Um, my ancestors, you know, you got to bring the ancestors in the building. They got to be in the building because they looking over us, they within us, and this is all throughout, man. So first off, I want to start like that. How this came together, Holla. So yes, Holla stands for How Our Lives Link All Together. Um, this was a journey. This was a process, and the journey has so many different layers. But Holla, we started inside prison. You know, we started in the walls of prison inside Otisville Correctional Facility back in 2007. How did all of us brothers get together and come up with an organization? It was real simple. We just got together and say, "Yo, let's build this thing." And nah, it wasn't that simple. um, a lot of the understanding, and this is gonna be the first time I even use this or say it in this way, but 5 out of the 7 founders, we all was playing basketball on a daily basis together, right? So that's myself, that's Corey, that's Shaq, that's Marlon, that's Bill, inside prison playing ball. Butter Lab, which is now worldwide, which is also Mr. Network, he was like moving around the facility doing different things, really connecting youth. He was like our elder. He is the elder, but he was like the elder of the org before we became an org, but an elder that just knew how to have a swag to be able to talk to young people. We were 24, 25, 26 years old inside prison when we started to think about these things. From basketball, we learned each other. We learned each other who we are, but also it was all of these programs that we was also connected with. These programs that was ran by men that was inside prison. What was dope about that, and what we kept on seeing is that a lot of these programs that was ran by the men that was inside prison, we found ourselves inside these same programs. So we learned about HIV and AIDS awareness. We learned about fatherhood. We learned about what we want to do once we get about in the community. So we was just in these learning programs. We learned about AVP, which is Alternative to Violence Project. So we learning all these different things. We inside these different programs, keep seeing each other. And there's a lot of whispering going on. You know, there's a lot of whispering about each other. Y'all like that dude. That dude is official. Yo, that dude is actually a blood. You know what I'm saying? He actually a gang member, but he actually official because he actually get these dudes to not fight. They get these dudes that actually want to come inside these programs, which was me, right? I'm like this blood inside prison. But I was just very knowledgeable. I was like educating myself. I was working on myself. And I definitely was telling all the homies, listen, y'all need to learn some of these things. Y'all need to do this. So what ended up happening was I was like the 5th person to come along and be a part of Holla before it even had a name. Like they just brought me down to this blue room and was like, yo, we've been building for like the last couple of weeks. We thinking about building an organization and we thinking about like how we can be effective while we inside prison. I'm like, yeah, I'm with that. You know what I'm saying? Let's do that. And then Corey ended up coming. And the funny thing is me and Corey started our bid off together on Rikers Island at 20, 21 and 20 years old. You know, we started off talking to each other, started off getting to know each other, started off like writing each other families, started off going on visits, right? And we built a relationship. But then when we copped out to our bids, and these were strong bids, I had 10 years in prison, Corey had 9. When we had copped out to these bids, we ended up going up north and we went up at a different time. So we got separated. So in 2007, we came back together and he landed inside of Otisville while we just was starting Holla before it had a name. Once Corey came in, the name came about, How Our Lives Link All Together. We were always like, oh, that's fire, you know? And it was an acronym, but the beauty of it, the thoughts that we was having, we just wanted to be able to be effective while we was inside. So we was thinking about having a letter writing program to reach out to young people that's inside programs, that's inside schools, that's in our homes. Cause we got kids, we got family members that's writing us inside prison and asking us for help, asking us what should they do. I have my little sister writing me saying like, yo, I might like some boys. What should I do? Should I worry about the boys? Should I go to school and all that? So we having our family members that actually looking up to us, even though we inside prison, or looking for some guidance, even though we inside prison. And that's how the brainstorm came. You had Marlon, who was writing already at school because a principal of a school was at one point, which was his childhood friend before he went to prison and made a certain decision to go to prison. This principal now became principal of school and was like, yo, I got some young boys. I know you've been smart. I know you could talk to these young kids. Can you reach out to them? And he started to write these kids. So we started to like get into that. And we was just thinking of like a bigger picture of like, how can we be effective inside? And we had so many people that were telling us, yo, y'all can do this. Y'all can do this. And that's how it went. We created the name. We wanted to not, what's the name? The jail has certain rules and all that. So we like, yo, if you gang up, they say more than 5 people and y'all organizing, we know what they going to do. They're going to start shipping you out and start moving you different places because they don't want us to actually build ourselves. They don't want us to actually be doing the right thing with it, so to speak. So we actually went out to the DEPA program, the superintendent, like, listen, we got this program. We got these people that's coming in from the Quakers saying that they got some kids that we could work with. Listen, we want to work with young people and all that. We gave them our bylaws. We built a whole business plan while we was inside, and they were just like, huh? What? Wait, we don't take this. We'll get back to you. And Butter Lab coined it the Holla Hold, and that's what they really had us on, Holla Hold. And eventually we went home one by one in like 2009, 2010. And that's when we started to actually do holla work inside the streets, inside the community. So we started working in Brownsville. And that's the highlight of how we all came together and how holla was born. And then there's another longer story after that.
Oh, that's amazing. No, that's awesome. There's an audience question I'm going to ask now, and it asks, would you consider the main focus of the healing circles is to increase community resilience? And how do we increase this community resilience when talking about trauma is sometimes so taboo in communities?
I love that question. However, I wouldn't say that's the main core of healing justice or healing circle. Something we in understanding right now is that it's a war going on, and we coined this from Dr. Cress Wessling, who talks about the war. She was talking about the war back in 1970, and she talked about how white supremacy definitely takes tolls on us Black and brown indigenous people and all that. And you talking about enslavement, you're talking about bondage, you're talking about chattel slavery, you're talking about like Black laws, you're talking about all these things that constantly affect us and still affect us still in 2022. We talk about the big heads like racism, capitalism, and we talk about all these things. And when you're in a war, if you're not training or you don't know you're in a war, you just living life. And sometimes when we're in these circles, we don't even know where to start at. We think it's this thing that's affecting us, maybe an argument, maybe a different interaction. We think these things is things that affect us, but it's a long history of things that's been just put on us. There's certain ways we grew up that we thought was the thing to do or the thing to be or who we should be, when these things is like things that constantly like fuck us up. Excuse my language, if I don't know if I could, but these things is like really harming us and really like beating us up. And then we getting in a circle and we trying to face someone that we don't know from out nowhere. We got trauma with even thinking about therapy and stuff like that. That term therapy is like, huh? I don't need no therapy. Like what you talking about? Like, building resilience is definitely a part of all of us because we got to have that quote. We got to keep on getting up because we're going to keep getting knocked down. We got to keep getting up. But I think the most important part when you're thinking about a healing circle is like Phelan said, is like challenging some of the things that we believe in, challenging some of the stuff that we hold on to that we think is just right thing because it was passed down to us. So it's got to be right. My mom taught me this. My father taught me this. My grandparents taught me this. And I understand it. We come from a history of technology, a history that constantly kept us enslaved. And like that's like a key for me. When you talk about healing circles, it's really about that getting to know one another. I think that's the main part, that journeying and that process, that this is not going to be overnight, that this is not going to be a week, this not going to take a month. That one day we might have inspiration to maybe go out and do a change, but it still needs some process, still needs some more cooking up. And I think that's what us, when we talk about our healing circle, we talking about that two-way street, you know? First, I got to heal within. First, I got to acknowledge that I need to heal. And then I could also say, you know what? Now I could talk to others about healing and about their process as well. And then also understanding that we still ain't healed because there's still other dynamics in this world, in our lives, that's been bombarded, that hit us so much that we don't even know that, is there, because of the, like I said, because of the technology. So just understanding that we're in a war, and just understanding that we got to be in training, you know what I'm saying? And that training is educating ourselves, understanding is questioning things that we think is truth. So yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Oh, that was great. There's another question in here that asks if you can speak a little bit to your experiences with intergenerational trauma.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely grew up, when you talk about intergenerational trauma, I definitely grew up respecting adults, but definitely not all the way trusting adults. I grew up with, like, if an older person, definitely more mainly a male, if an older male definitely um said something to me that I felt like and I took the wrong way, then I probably, like, I don't like you, you know what I'm saying? You can't tell me nothing now. And I think that also comes from, when we think about the historical trauma, when we think about a lot of these things that we in war about, that also comes from that as well, because we was taught to not trust our people, taught not to trust our elders, not to trust even our skin color. You know what I'm saying? We was taught that for so long, and indirectly taught that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't see you, ain't none of the presidents. You know what I'm saying? You ain't nobody important. You know what I mean? So why should I be looking up to you? You know what I'm saying? Who am I looking up to? I can't. All the people that I'm looking up to, they in jails. So we was taught in such this way that not understand, like, a system was put in place in our communities to messes us up. And thinking about just intergenerational trauma, it's so and that just, it's so much that affects male and us male and us female. Like, that thing is just so crazy that, once again, it goes back to this war thing. We don't even know that we are being messed up behind it. We don't even know that it's there. We just think that's the way it got to be. You have younger adults right now that might say, like, in order to give respect, you got to give me respect. You know what I'm saying? And I understand, like, if I love my elders and I respect my elders and I can learn from my elders and I can also teach my elders. And that goes both ways, because you got elders that's definitely still in this type of thing. Like, I don't listen to young people. I can't not connect with these young people. I can't relate to these young people. So you already putting up a guard up that's going to make us both not be able to be equal and all that. The reason why I brought up Butter Lab earlier, because he was just dope in that. This was like a grown older man. I'm 24, 25 years old when I met Butter Lab, right? But this is a grown older man that was able to still dance. And, like, we in prison, like, we doing some rough times and all that. But this dude got life in prison, but able to keep a smile on his face. Life in prison, able to still tell young people, yo, you got to go, what's the name? And say it in a way where I'm not chastising you. I'm saying, on your time, you need to definitely get some education, go learn something. Even if it's not school, do something else, because you're going to go home. And when you go home, you're going to need to be effective. You're going to need to keep coming back and forth here. And I think that type of swag definitely resonated with me. And I told myself, like, that older brother, I always big him up in that way, because I'm like, yo, that older brother, he's so official. Like, that's how I want to be when I get older. Be able to have that swag, be able to have that camaraderie, that I could connect with young people. Because sometimes when we get older and we change our ways and we not that no more, we putting them down and not understanding we the one that actually probably helped them be in this the way they are right now, right? Because we did some things that they glorified, and now they trying to replay that.
That that is, I'm gonna keep using the word awesome. One of the things that is so impressive to me about your work is that it feels like so much a representation of African worldview, right? This concept of bringing in personal development and identity and social connections and relationships, to the elders, to our ancestors, a spiritual understanding, the power of music and art that was so prevalent in the film, like bringing all these things together. And I know you're talking about it. You heard some of it from the elders. You heard, you got brought into it. But how did you build this program that had all these components? As one kind of programmatic approach to this. How did you all get to that point?
Yeah, that was a process in itself too, you know. Like for most of us, we definitely we started out, like I said, with like me, I would say my two biggest things that helped me in my transition and my thinking and stuff definitely a lot of my brothers that was inside prison. Um, that was part of like political movements and all that, you know, or used to be a part of these political movements like the guard bodies, like the Nation of Islam, like the Black Panther parties, and just learning from that. Big up to rest in peace Eddie Ellis, right? Um, this brother and many of the brothers, they was inside Green Haven after the Attica riot, after the Attica riot, right? And they came out with the think tank where they was in brothers inside prison that was just thinking about the community. Same way that Holla did, that's where we get that from. They was inside the community, inside prison, thinking about how can we strengthen brothers inside the prison to actually get some goals, become aware, get educated to be effective once they're released. When I think about that brother, that definitely a lot of African wisdom. And he came from a power. He went to prison to go against the war, fighting against the war, right? Um, when I think about that, I'm thinking about the concept of what they say. You know, the theory that they came out with, the understanding that was made. These brothers was able to study themselves inside prison and study the prison and be able to come out with a scholastic approach, and it's called the non-traditional approach. But they asked the basic question: is in New York State, there's over 85% of the prison system in New York State is Black and brown people, right? Out of that 85%, 75% of them people comes from New York City. So out of the whole big New York State, 75% of the whole New York State prison fills up. 75% comes from directly from New York City, 7 neighborhoods and 18 assembly district. Mind you, New York State only represents, they say 25 to 28% Black and brown people. So it's like, how is that we fill up the jails? That's like a phenomenon. Like that is just crazy, right? And then they ask that question. And the reason why they asked that question, because constantly when they was inside prison, they constantly was going from prison to prison and seeing people that they knew that was from their blocks. I knew this person from my block. He know me from this block. I know him from this block. And you're like, yo, damn, we all inside here? And how was that? And I warped that right into, you know, when we talk about why we stand on these African ancient sacred science and all that, and why we talk about, yeah, from an African worldview and why we put art and stuff like that. Because we know our young people think different, look different. We need to be schooled different. We need to have circles and everything. School don't provide that. Schools don't provide school circles. They starting now. Oh, let's put some restorative class inside these schools. Now they starting, but that should have been going on because that's how we've been taught. That's how we've been learned. That's how we've been groomed. And we stand on that because we understand these things are perfect things, approaches to a stand on a long tradition. So we stand on ancient Africa. We stand on our families. We stand on the grass movement work. We stand on prison organizing. And some people like, oh, so what you mean you stand on prison organizing? Because we have a deep understanding that brothers inside prison, definitely that find themselves, but definitely our political prisoners understood the war was going on. And this is why white supremacy washed them up and put them inside prison or even killed them. You know, when you think about Huey, you think about Fred Hampton, they killed our people when they did these things. When you think about our school system right now, the public school system, when you think about free food, when you think about free health clinics, this is all done by our people that started that. You know what I'm saying? But yet,
Looks
it's
like
definitely something our young people should know because they're not teaching us that inside school. They're not telling us about those things inside school. Like why inside school we don't really know Black Panthers the way we should know just as much as we know Martin Luther King? Why we don't know that Black Panthers came up with a senior program to protect and keep seniors safe inside the community? Why that gotta be looking like a new thing when somebody do that in the community, when that been something that we already put out there? That's been tradition in Africa. You always looked up to your elder. You always, as the youth, protected your elders, you know that. You always use the art. You always use the beats. Why that's not inside our schools? We singing Star Spangled Banner and all that. And we don't know who the hell is Star Spangled Banner. You know what I mean? So, like, you know, it's just so real. And this is why a lot of our young people don't even connect with school in that way. Why they don't want to go to school? Why they don't want to? Because once again, I'm just speaking even personal. Like I said, when as a parent telling me, yo, you're gonna be the next president, and every time I go to school and I see all these white faces up there, like, for real, like, this is why I definitely say, and I'm gonna bring Obama in the building, I mean, but definitely I was so happy, you know what I mean, when Obama became president. You know why? Because I definitely could say, like, now a young Black boy could look up and see that Obama or that picture up there and be like, yeah, I can. And that could be real. But society had to take time to even get to there. But yeah, I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna give you a break for a second. Is that okay? I'm gonna go to Phelan and ask you a question about how you create these storylines. So there were the film was built up almost like chapters of a book. So home, street, game, etc. Why did you choose to do the film that way? I'm assuming it's probably some relation. There was dialogue about that, but how did that work? How did you decide to do that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm sure if anyone does editing out there, I'm sure like you know that it's like a lot of it is kind of a weird, intangible kind of process where you're just trying to figure out how things fit together, and sometimes it clicks, and sometimes you're like, how the hell do I make this work? And with this film, it was a bit more of the second piece of like I remember actually I was in London, and my friend Danielle, who is actually from the Bronx in New York, she was staying with me. And I remember like lying on the floor, like just being like, I don't know how to make this film work. Like, I don't know how it's going to fit all together. And she like gave me some encouragement, and that night I actually kind of figured out the sort of sequence that we see. And I think part of the challenge with this film was like, is one is like there's a lot of stories, like there's a lot of voices, and you're trying to figure out like how to show those interconnections between the stories, and try to honor as best you can the stories of each individual, while also kind of like the other piece is this sort of critical analysis that's happening, especially in the first part of the film of both the personal stories, but then also a critical analysis of these different pieces of like, what was the experience like at school? What was the experience like on the block? And then building that context, like as we move in, like building like deeper context about history, about systemic oppression. And part of that was to try as well to sort of illustrate some of the process that happens in Hola, with the young people, and the organizers like working together, like sharing personal stories in a deep way, but then also like building that critical consciousness about like what's actually behind this, what's going on, like what are these systems, how does like historical oppression and trauma like play out in these very personal stories that we have, in my relationship to my mum and all this stuff. Like, so part of it was trying to sort of like create an experience for the audience as well, where they're kind of on that journey a little bit as well. Because, and I like Avox, you probably talk better to this, but like I think that foundation of like critical thinking, critical analysis, about systemic oppression, and the history, the foundation of the experiences that are happening right now is like a core part of the healing process as well. So we really wanted to sort of share that. but having it like by dividing up into those chapters, it kind of offered a format to be able to do that, a kind of structure, and hopefully one that the audience, especially if the audience is really new to all of this, like could follow and sort of like as they go along build their own kind of consciousness as they're like watching the film. Hope that makes sense.
Can I add on?
Go
Absolutely.
for it.
Yeah. Thanks, Faye. Yeah, Faye did an excellent job, man. That he did an excellent job. And yes, like he said, it supposed to be like a 10, 15-minute film. And it turned out to be like a movie, you know, and it turned out to actually inspire and motivate and really like I'm not sure how many of y'all that's watching this or how y'all felt definitely watching this. Like it brings a lot of emotion, especially when you can connect, or when you can even have just that empathy and all that. Yes, we do a lot of healing justice work. And with that healing justice work, we always in a studying bag. We always going back. So when Faye like kind of synchronized and we all in the process, we tell him like, yo, nah, put this in, nah, that definitely got to go in. And like he get hearing all these different voices and we notes after notes and minutes after minutes. We like, no, you got to put this minute from this here to this here. All of those things was intentional. And reason why we say definitely it's a part of healing justice because we knew the message we wanted to get out. We definitely, none of us is definitely scholarly and like filmmaking, anything like that. But we definitely have a lot to say, you know. We call ourselves going brothers and sisters. And, but the real part is even when we broke it up in that form and in that way, them themes is something that we do. Holla, we reached out to like 80 to 100 different organizations and had a bunch of healing circles with these organizations. Some of them you saw inside there and all that. Rest in peace to some of our brothers who passed away. That was part of Open Doors and all that. Open Doors is a program who do healing work, and these is brothers that are been like shot, been paralyzed, and they you know what I mean, in wheelchairs. Some have used speakers, like, and these are some deep brothers that use their wounds, use what they was harmed, and to be able to get back to the community, give speeches to young people. And we had these healing circles with them. We also trained them to how to go about sharing their stories. These are some brothers, and some of them is musical artists, some of them make beats. And this is just the beauty of it. I mean, inside the video, you hear Salik who talks about, and this was a brother, he didn't want to speak. When we was in the circle, he was like on some quiet, you know what I mean? Like just sat quiet the whole time and was like real standoffish. By the time to end, he really gave us some energy and told us, like how he feel, but it's about that trust, you know what I'm saying? But he watching young people that kind of inspired, not kind of, that inspired him, you know, and rest in peace to that brother, you know, rest in peace to Reyes. Like these, some of our brothers that we built these relationships with. So when we think about those, and to go into that question, when we think about those different themes, they was lined that way because when we did our analysis, when we went back and we looked at it like, how does the approach rise? Like we, you know, give you that from the storm, and then, you know, you bringing that storm back down. And that right there for us was intentional. So, and with the help of Faye, like the way he did the video, we just knew, like he said, the audience need to also understand what we're talking about when we talk about the block, you know, because some of the language we're using is not traditional language, right? There's a lot of non-traditional things inside there. So we want you to know the hood, the block, the streets, and all that, how we connect. So.
And it was very effective. I mean, to be able to, and to think about you all trying to take us on that journey and give us all the context because it's so rich. Like I said, I'm so impressed with the holistic nature of the work that you do. That, you know, being able to see this in film and follow sort of all these really powerful narratives and stories was really, really impressive. You do work across the country now, right? You all have expanded outside of New York. And so how did you expand, and do you have workshops or curriculum that is or can be taken to other parts of the nation?
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Hank Hackney. Hackney. We were just talking to Faye about Hackney and all that. That's a UK group that's doing a lot of dope work inside UK. They fire, you know what I mean? Some young brothers and sisters. We did a healing circle with them, and they want us to come train with them and all that. And if COVID wasn't here, they probably would have been over here already. They say, you know. But yeah, we definitely did work. Well, was not New Zealand. What's that joint called? Australia. Yeah, we had a workshop, did a healing circle workshop, and this is virtual, of course. But you know, sadly, due to COVID and everything, the world changed, right? And then, as you know, we all have to change with the world, I guess, you know. But we definitely love that personal, like being around, being circled up, being able to hold hands, be able to chant together. Shout out to Asada. Yeah, but doing work across the country, that's just so amazing how we get these connections, how we meet a brother like Faye that's meet another brother and was able to connect with us and be able to showcase and show our work, you know? Just like I asked Faye the question yesterday, like how your family felt about this, you know what I'm saying? And like we all wanted to have like that time to watch it with our family in a dope big way. We also had like a viewing that we was bringing out our funders. We wanted to bring out everybody to come watch when the film first came out, but then COVID came, so we couldn't even do that, right? But going into the international, just thinking about healing circles, now that we more becoming adapt to this virtual thing, I think it's working now, you know. Before we didn't believe in this, you know, because we couldn't feel, I couldn't feel you through the screen. But I'm guessing the more you normalize something, it start resonating in your body, it start resonating in your, that's why it's so bad when you think about white supremacy as a whole, because we normalize certain, and I'm definitely going back into that bag. We normalize certain things that we don't even question, like, is this the right thing or not, right? So let's, for an example, not to tell anybody age, but just growing up, I never thought Christopher Columbus was a bad person, right? You know what I'm saying? I felt he discovered America and like he was a warrior. He came from, you know, Italy over here, you know, and like, yeah, like Spain, Italy, one of them things, right? Yeah, I thought he was like this great. And then you start reading and start educating, like, yo, this dude was fucked up. You know what I'm saying? Like, like this shit is crazy. Like, and to make fun, like you see all these TV shows, cowboys and Indians, and like you never rooting for the Indian. Like you always want the cowboy to kill the Indian, and you're not even understanding. Like they just normalizing you to feel like don't have no feelings for them people and all that. And then Birth of the Nation come out, right? And you think about Birth of the Nation, what they did to us. So you normalize how people look at. So now the KKK uprising, now Black laws, now all these different things that constantly kills off our humanity and all that, and make people think it's cool, make people think it's okay. And but this is never taught inside the schools, like, you know what I'm saying? Which most of, and you know, one of the questions, like where most of I learn and get taught most of the days, you spend most of your time at school. You got 24 hours a day. Part of the day you sleep. Part of the day you home. Most of the time you in schools at least 9 months out of the year. So yeah, it's crazy, man. And it's understanding it. Like they did a great ass job when you look at it in overall of how to fuck up like people in a general, how to create a slave, you know what I'm saying? Willie Lynch. Like how to make a slave. Like yeah, so but definitely shout out to all of our international connections. We still want more. But those is like beautiful because then you get to see how white supremacy shows up over there. Get to see how racism shows up over there, colorism shows up over there. So and this is throughout the world. This is not just New York. This is not just United States. This is like throughout the world. Like, yeah, it's a war. Like this is crazy. Like, but and y'all, everybody listening, yeah, y'all know what's going on, man. That's the I didn't know that. Sorry.
No, that's right on. White supremacy is a global experience. It is not homegrown to the United States. It brought here and brought to lots of other places. So no, we definitely understand what you're saying. So I'm gonna be more direct. You coming to California, or are you all already in California?
So we definitely in Cali. Shout out to all our Cali people out there and all that. Definitely. We actually wanted to be out there in Cali and everything. We thought this was gonna be in person and all that. But yeah, we definitely got mad people out in Cali, out in Oakland and the Bay Area. We still building more connections in Cali. Shout out to UPM. Shout out to Courage. Shout out to Courage with George. Yeah, we definitely got a lot of Cali connections and all that. I haven't never been to LA yet, so that's on my goal. That's on my to-do list too. So
I think you got some interest in LA. Dr. Burton gave a shout out to Hala and Corey on the website chat too. So
oh yeah,
I'm
Peace,
pretty
Queen.
sure you're gonna have some interest coming from LA.
That's our elder. Susan is our elder, man. Shout out to Susan. Come on, Doc. Yeah, that's our elder. We love her, man. We're part of a big national movement with Dorsey Young, George, Susan. It's called Formerly Incarcerated Convicted People Family Movement.
Yep.
We love them. We love them. Like they had one of the dopest, biggest event that we went to about, I think 2 years ago, where they flew out, housed like so many formerly incarcerated Black and brown people and white people, everybody, formerly incarcerated people and some of our families for 3-day conference celebration, just understanding. I love that, man. That was so powerful, so impactful. And this was like done by our people, like, you know what I'm saying? Raising, connecting with each other, building, putting aside their own personal things, putting their program, putting their money putting their money into action. I think it was so dope, yeah. Shout out to FICP FM.
That's awesome. I think the next two moderators are going to be from there. So
Dope.
you all keep watching the next couple of nights, you'll definitely see some folks. I'm gonna give a shout out that's coming from the website. Heather Moyers on the website says the film was amazing and Phelan captured the spirit well, and the overlay of the music was on point. So shout out to the filmmaking and the music.
That album, go get that album.
There you go. That's right.
The report back. It's on YouTube. It's on all music streams.
So I'm gonna ask a question about something that I heard in the film, and it's one of the questions that was asked during the Healing Circles. Who do you pretend to be? And that just struck me so much as being something that we can go so deep with. And I just wanted to hear sort of more about those conversations, and maybe some of the other questions, other parts of those conversations that happen in the Healing Circles that help people open up.
Yeah. Shout out to Sean Jenray. He never Cali Forest. Yo, and we got a lot of Flores agenda. Shout out to them over there. Yes. So we have this activity called the Who Are You activity. This is like one of the meets of our, like when we talk about healing circles and stuff like that. And we asking that simple question, who are you, right? And we adapted that from Sean Jenray. He told us, go ahead, use this in our work. Yeah, that's a brother. That's one of our brothers, big bros, doing a lot of great work. Yeah, definitely. Corey, thank you for that connection. Corey is also the co-founder of Hala. Me and him both were the leaders that move Hala forward. We got our young leaders, Nash and Alex, who's continuing to do the work. Nash is a young queer sister, so I just want to bring them in the building. Alex is a dope young brother. And like I said, we all come from these 7 neighborhoods. These communities have definitely been impacted by the prison system, definitely been impacted in mad deep ways. And just going into that, who you pretend to be in this world, in this life, that's like a skill you get taught from the young, from off the rip, right? You get taught that from off the rip. And that's part of our questions. Like we ask after that, who are you? We ask like who you pretend to be. Because oftentimes they're not, we don't even know we be pretending to be things because we do it it's so normal, like we just do it, right? But really, we don't even know that that probably been taught to us, been passed down to us. And when we think about slavery, and you think about how the mothers had to teach the daughters to be strong because certain things the mother knew was going to happen to her daughter, right? The rapes was going to happen, the beatings was going to happen. So you got to teach your daughter to be strong. The mothers also had to teach the sons not to be so much strong because when you're too strong, they kill you. You know what I mean? And I don't want my baby to die. So the mother had to teach the son how to balance that. You know what I mean? Like, got to probably be weak at some point. You can't just use your emotions at some point. And you think about all these things, how it become the norm when we get older, certain things happen in our household, and sometimes we got to pretend. So unfortunately, not even unfortunately, I say fortunately, I would say with a blessing, I never had to go through it, but I definitely know some people that I know, family members as well, that probably didn't get to eat every night, right? So maybe drinking water, you had to pretend that was juice, or you had to put sugar in the water. Now you had juice, right? But that's sugar water. So you think it's juice, but that's, that was like a form of a drink, right? Or a sugar sandwich because you didn't have other things. What's the name? Mayonnaise sandwich. These is all real inside the Black community. I definitely had mayonnaise sandwiches. I definitely had sugar sandwiches. My mom was at work. None of us knew how to cook. We in the crib, you know what I'm saying? Those are some of the things, and you just got to understand, like, that might be the meal. And then she coming home from work late, she might not be able to cook, Y'all hungry? Do what y'all ate. Y'all eat the bread, y'all eat you know, and those things happen. But who you pretend to be is a deep question because once you start unfolding that, you get to say you pretend a lot to be a lot of things. I always talk about, like, I pretend a lot of time to be like Batman. And the reason why I say Batman, and I have a whole different level of reflection on Batman now. But after I learned from another sister, shout out to Tanya Fields. But yeah, when I think about Batman, I think about he have this belt where he have all these different tools on his belt, same as Inspector Gadget. And anytime he in some type of situation, he use one of these tools to get out of that situation. So I felt like me using that analogy, I was like, yeah, that's me. Like, I'm always trying to discover, trying to fix something. And I'm always like, anytime it's some type of situation, I want to get out of that. But I use Batman as a pretend to be. And I use that, the other thing about, like, I pretend like I got it all sometimes. Like, ain't nothing wrong with me. And I be definitely deeply hurting inside. And a lot of us do that. A lot of us pretend like everything is all right. Everything is going to be all right. Everything. Like, we pretend those things because I also know it's people that's looking up to me to make sure that I stay focused so they can at least have somebody to hope for. So sometimes I don't want to talk about my baggage or talk about what I'm really going through because I don't want to let down the people that's watching me and the people that's what's name. And that's a big thing because when you think about, you can't even shed tears as males because you was taught, like, be a man. You can't shed tears. You can't cry. Be a man. Men don't cry, right? And we can't even share our own story. So now when I'm really hurting, I'd rather hold it in and pretend like I'm all right when I'm really, like, hurting. And these things is killing me. These things is hurting me and beating me up. And I don't even know that they beating me up until later on when I spaz. And now the world's saying, like, what happened? Why this person spaz like that? But that's that pretend to be. A lot of us pretend to be these things and we not there. We want to cry. We want to give a hug. We want someone to hug us. We want someone to tell us that we're beautiful. We want someone to tell us that they love us, And we pretend like I don't care. You got young kids that fathers, like my father was inside prison. I always say I love my father. Like my father was a man inside prison that still, even though he was in prison doing 30 plus years, he still reached out to me. He still was in my life. We had other people that they father was in the community, but they father wasn't there. And they didn't know how to build with their father. They father didn't know how to build with them because of the hurt, because of the harm, because of the awareness. And these things, and you hear them all the time, like, I don't need that person. I don't need him. I don't need her. You know what I'm saying? I got it by myself. I don't need y'all. I don't need nobody. And these don't be those pretending bees. And that question is just definitely deep when you start unfolding and seeing like that.
No, for sure, for sure. It struck me. It struck me powerfully. Like, who do you pretend to be, and how do you go through this life trying to pretend to be something that is not real. Um, So y'all's work is just so powerful. I've said that I think a few times now. I'm super touched by it. I have to tell you that part of it is that I'm also working with um, my own transition and getting to reconnect with my cousin who's been in prison for 30 years and how to try to help get him out. And the work that you all doing is just so powerful. That's why the holistic nature and what it means to be community and family and how do you not leave somebody behind is so important to me right now. So thank you for sharing that. We're about out of time, but there's a final question that I want you all to have a chance to answer, which is how can we help you expand and reach more people?
Say that again.
How can we help you expand? How can we help Hala help us?
So yeah, definitely. Sadly, during COVID, we lost a space. We don't even have a space right now. So once again, COVID like kind of like a savior a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So we able to do a lot of virtual stuff and all that. But our work definitely is surrounding around and connected with space. How you can help? Definitely continue to share this video. Go on our website. We got merch, you know what I'm saying? You could donate to us. You could connect us to funders. Or you could also just constantly think about like your own healing process. I think that's like the biggest thing, man, because this is not just for us. This is really for a world. This is how our lives link all together, right? Yeah, man. Just being like every day we need to be studying and understanding like we're in a war. And I already explained what the war was earlier, and I say it again, man. We have to understand like we've been tricked, we've been in a war. And yeah, it's time to fight. It's time to like really like step up and really like unorganize from what you thought was the right things or thought is the thing to be, right? And I think, yeah, once again, shout out, just go on our website. It's healwithhala.com. Reach out to us, connect us. Yeah, just continue to build, man. And we intentionally, like I said, so like hit us on the email, hit us on a call, like reach out, like let's talk, let's talk about deeper ways how we can build, how we can help, how you can support. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you both for joining us. It's been really interesting, really powerful, expanded upon the film itself, and I'm just glad that y'all were here. Just glad to have a chance to talk to you and meet you because this has been fire. So I'm glad to be with you.
And we need a dope filmmaker. He right here. So
Yeah.
hit up Faye, like definitely. I don't know his capacity, but hit up Faye, like definitely, man. Like beautiful brother, man. Continue doing the work. And we definitely appreciate throughout the whole process. And it's about journeying. That's the biggest key. Even when we talk about healing and all that, healing circles, it's about journeying. That's the biggest key, man.
All right. Thank you so much. You got the last word. So come back tomorrow, though. We do have film for the next 3 nights. So tomorrow at 3:00 Pacific time, we've got Racially Charged and Fighting for Family in Tutwiler. So there's films. The program is on the website. Please take a look at it and find the films that you want to see. Thank you all again. Thank you, audience, for joining us. And I'm just so excited about meeting both of you all. Have a good night.
We'll see you in Cali, hopefully,
Yes.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yes.
Thanks so much.
Okay.